So your API is feeling incredibly sluggish. You know the drill. The dashboard takes just way too long to load, your search results are awkwardly delayed, and, well, your checkout process is starting to look dangerously unreliable. If you're building applications, you have absolutely felt this pain. And honestly, you've definitely heard the complaints from your users. Well, let's dive right into this. When these performance nightmares pop up, what do? We developers usually start pointing fingers at the network, right? Or the front end, or maybe server memory. But here's the cold, hard truth staring right back at us. It is almost always your database causing the bottleneck.
In this explainer, we're really going to focus on a massive, totally necessary mindset shift. We're looking at database performance tuning, writing queries that scale. We've got to break the habit of just making things work and shift our entire focus to making them actually scale.
Here's the roadmap for our scale-up journey today. We'll start with why your application is slow, then get into measurement, indexes, and plans. After that, we'll fix some common query anti-patterns, untangle transactions, locks, and connections, look at scaling reads and heavy reporting, and finally, go over how to avoid common database mistakes. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, why your application is slow and why millions of rows matter. You see, a query that calculates something simple, like a user's course completion percentage, might work flawlessly when you only have 1,000 rows of data. But when that exact same query hits 10 million rows, boom, it can completely crash your application.
Which brings us to a fundamental core concept. Databases are incredibly powerful, but they are not magic. We simply cannot treat the database as a black box anymore. Understanding exactly how your data is being accessed under the hood is absolutely crucial. And I mean crucial not just for your user sanity, but for keeping your infrastructure costs from totally exploding.
This builds perfectly into Section 2, measurement, indexes, and plans, where our golden rule is to measure before guessing.
Think of this as the medical diagnosis phase of our performance tuning. Now, the really interesting thing about this optimization process is how it directly challenges our gut instincts. When things get slow, what do teams do? They try random fixes. They blindly add caching, they throw money at the problem by increasing server size, or they just impulsively rewrite code. But you have to measure before guessing. You've got to challenge that instinct. Use your slow query logs and your application performance monitoring to identify the actual slow queries. Check their execution plans, and then, and honestly only then, optimize based on hard evidence.
And you know what? That evidence very often leads us straight to indexes. So what's a database index? It's a structure, very much like the index at the back of a textbook, that helps the database find rows quickly without having to scan the entire table. Like, if you're searching for users by email, an index stops the database from reading millions of records one by one. But listen closely here, because this is a catch. Indexes are not free. They take up physical storage space, and because the index has to be updated every single time the data changes, well, adding too many indexes will actually severely slow down your write performance.
Moving right along to Section 3, fixing common query anti-patterns and fixing bad developer habits. Ah yes, the infamous N+1 query problem. We've all been there. This happens when your application makes one query to fetch a list of items, let's say 100 courses, and then it turns around and makes one additional query for every single item in that list just to fetch its instructor. That is literally 101 separate database queries for a single page load. It's crazy. And simple ORM code can secretly hammer your database with hundreds of these behind the scenes without you even realizing it. The fix? Eager loading. Fetch all that related data upfront in one efficient database call.
Next up, we need to talk about pagination. It is absolutely crucial to understand the fundamental difference between offset and cursor pagination. Offset pagination simply tells the database to skip rows. It's like saying, hey, skip 100,000 rows and give me the next 20. On massive datasets, counting and skipping all those rows is incredibly expensive and insanely slow. Cursor pagination, on the other hand, uses a stable ID or a timestamp to say, give me the next 20 records exactly after this specific point. It's a real game changer. It is the secret sauce for infinitely scalable scrolling.
Let's shift gears and move into Section 4, transactions, locks, and connections, where we'll look at how to manage concurrent users.
We're going a bit deeper into the database architecture now. A transaction basically groups database operations into a single unit of work that must either fully succeed or fully fail. But here is the massive system crashing mistake developers make. They start a transaction, hold a database lock, and then They just wait. They wait for a slow external API, like a payment provider, to respond before committing. Never, ever do this. Keep your transactions short. Do your database changes, commit the transaction to release the lock, and only then trigger your external APIs or background work.
And while we're on the topic of managing resources, we absolutely have to talk about the connection pool. Creating a brand new database connection for every single user request is just incredibly expensive. A connection pool fixes this by reusing a limited number of open connections. But here's the catch. If you exhaust your connection pool, maybe because of a sudden spike in traffic or some really long-running queries, your entire application will appear completely dead to your users, even if the individual queries themselves are actually fast.
Which perfectly sets up Section 5, scaling reads in every reporting and serving mass analytics.
So we really need to explore what happens when your application has to juggle both rapid-fire user interactions and massive administrative analytics. Here's the inherent conflict. Transactional queries are small and frequent, stuff like logging a user in or processing a shopping cart. Reporting queries, though, they are massive. Think about calculating the exact completion rate for every single department in a global company over the last 12 months. These small, frequent transactional queries should never, ever be fighting for CPU and memory against those massive reporting queries on your primary database.
So how do we actually solve this? Well, with a read replica. This is essentially a synchronized copy of your primary database that's used exclusively to offload those heavy read queries and reports. Your primary handles the writes, and your replica handles the heavy lifting for the reads. But, and this is a big but, you have to remind your engineering teams to account for replication lag. The replica might be just slightly behind the primary, so your application's architecture needs to be totally aware that new data might actually take a few milliseconds to show up.
Now, let's apply all of this to a real-world scenario. Look at these query patterns for a learning platform. Notice how the composite indexes are intentionally, meticulously designed around exact query access patterns? It's like a giant puzzle fitting perfectly together. If we regularly find users by their tenant, the index literally must be tenant ID followed by email. Column order matters immensely. You really have to design your indexes based on exactly how your application queries the data. No more guessing.
All right, we're at the climax now. Section 6, Avoiding Common Database Mistakes, where we'll cover the worst database offenses.
Let's summarize the absolute worst habits that developers need to stop doing immediately. Consider this your rapid-fire cheat sheet for production stability. Number 1, missing indexes on frequently filtered columns. 2, using select star everywhere and dragging around massive amounts of unnecessary data. 3, missing pagination on APIs. 4, those performance-killing N+1 queries. 5, holding ridiculously long transactions. 6, trapping external API calls inside those transactions. And 7, running heavy analytical reports on your primary database. Ignoring any of these 7 offenses, you're basically building a ticking time bomb for your production environment.
And this leads us to one of the biggest, most stubborn misconceptions in software engineering. As the quote says, caching can improve performance, but it should not replace query optimization. I want to completely dismantle this just add cache myth right here, right now. Caching merely hides bad queries temporarily. It's a band-aid. When that cache eventually misses, and it will, your database is still going to get absolutely hammered. You have to fix the underlying inefficient queries first, and then apply caching as a nice enhancement.
Which brings us to the core thesis of this entire explainer. Do not only write queries that work, write queries that scale. Strong database performance is literally never an accident. It requires highly intentional design, a really deep understanding of your access patterns, and continuous, evidence-based measurement. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final, provocative challenge to chew on the next time you push code. Your code works flawlessly for 100 users today, but exactly what is going to break when you hit 10 million tomorrow? Keep optimizing, keep measuring, and thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. We'll see you next time.